Hi, hello everyone. I'm Bill Quirk. I, um, I represent much of southern Alameda County in the state legislature, including Ashland, Cherryland, Castro Valley, Fairview, Hayward, Hayward Acres, San Lorenzo, Sunol, Union City, Northern Fremont. It's 500,000 people. I am honored to present today's town hall with our Alameda County Supervisors, Richard Valle and David Haubert. They will be sharing the latest on COVID-19, what they've been working on, and their goals for the rest of the year. Alameda County has been a leader in our fight against COVID-19 from the very start. They took the dramatic action, along with 5 other counties in the city of Berkeley, of asking for the economy to shut down. And they did that several weeks before New York City and New York State did. If we had waited as long as New York City and New York State did, we could have been them, with bodies waiting to go into temporary refrigerated trucks. But it didn't happen. So yes, we've had problems, but we never got to the point where we were out of ventilators, where we were out of beds, etc. And that really is because of the courageous action first taken by these counties. We have a governor who made a rapid decision to shut down the state a week after, and that was followed by the last sensible move made by President Trump to ask the country to shut down. After that, not so much. Anyway, we owe a lot to these supervisors. David wasn't a supervisor, but he was mayor of Dublin and helped Dublin shut down and helped. They had to forego their annual St. Patrick's Day parade, and if you know Dublin, that just doesn't happen. After a little bit of a slow start here in California, we've been doing very well on vaccinations. In Alameda County, about 40% of adults have received at least 1 dose, and a quarter are fully vaccinated. So that's a tremendous achievement. And Alameda County, from the very beginning, put 40% of their doses into trust to be used for hard-to-reach communities, poor, Hispanic, immigrant, African American. They made a major effort to reach out to those communities. Pretty soon, our concerns won't be that the lines are too long for COVID. It'll be that we have to get more people vaccinated. April 15th, everyone 18 and over is going to be eligible. That's just next week. So, and further, we may be able to open in mid-June if there's enough vaccination supply and the hospitalization rates remain low and the rate of new cases remains low. So as we inch back to normalcy, let us continue to exercise safety. And the compliance around the Bay Area for masks is exemplary. And I know many of us would like the schools to stay open, but the schools can be a real vector for disease as well. So we're being very careful even as we open the schools. I'm proud to say that I'm now fully vaccinated. Encourage everyone else to get as soon as their shot as soon as they're able. And within a week, that's just about every adult. Now, I'd like to introduce my good friend of many years, Richard Valle. We knew each other both when we were city council members. So, Richard, you have been my friend. You've been one of the hardest people I know, hardest working people. The thing you have to remember about supervisors is they're the folks who take care of the people that no one else is taking care of. That's their big job. It's health and welfare. It's taking care of the people in the jails. They're made major efforts to make sure, for example, that COVID-19 didn't go through our jail the way it did to San Quentin, killing a large fraction of the prisoners there. And they're working right now to get them all vaccinated, testing them regularly. And then Richard has just been, he's the on the committee for public safety. He's worked very hard on this. And in addition, he is the founder and president of Tri-State Community Recycling. It's the largest nonprofit recycling company in the state. And the important thing for Richard, I know, is that in addition to doing a great job on recycling, he employs at-risk youth, kids who've been in jail, and provides union jobs for these folks who are having problems. And this is the way to steer them ahead. For a long time, we've had policies that we're going to just punish people our way out. You can't do that. You've got to give people good alternatives, and that's what Richard's been doing. So, Richard, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Thank you, Assemblymember, and welcome, fellow Supervisor Halpert. Good to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria has prepared a slideshow, and we're going to very rapidly go through some of the initiatives that District 2 is working on. And we're going to go through this quickly because we're on limited time, and maybe I can stick around for the Q&A on the back end. So these are some of the updates. These are the zip codes 94541, 94544, 94545 that are impacted in South Hayward by COVID. And primarily it's a Latinx community that is feeling the impacts. We have been working with our partners in the community, including community-based organizations, to do regular meetings with the 4 cities, Fremont, Newark, Union City, and Hayward. Every other Monday morning, we meet with the 4 mayors, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, and the hospitals in our district. And we have these joint calls. We've had them since March of 2020 to talk about the impacts of COVID in our communities. And we bring speakers to talk about how the county can help alleviate the burden on those most severely impacted in our area. So we've been working with the Hayward Fire Department. They've been a great leader. Chief Garrett Contreras is a champion when it comes to logistics. I know that he helped set up the staging center at the Coliseum complex. We rely on him to do a lot of infrastructure when it comes to setting up platforms and opportunities for people to get vaccinated and tested. At Santa Rita, since COVID broke out in March, we've been going out to the jail every Friday. I was there today, and we've had community calls with people in the community concerned about loved ones in the jail. The sheriff has invited us out, and those calls have been very popular. We have almost all of the districts from the county, from every office on those calls, the public defender's office, behavioral health services on those calls, and the sheriff's command staff. And on occasion, I will go into the jail and meet with people who have lost contact with their families outside of the jail. And we're asked to go in and speak with them in person. I do have access to those individuals and reassure families that they're well and healthy, and there's no, as a result of all of these calls and the work with WellPath, which is the healthcare provider in the jail, we're at, I believe, a 0 impact with regard to any deaths at the jail for over a year. You know about the tragedies at San Quentin. That never happened at Santa Rita. We did have COVID, and we always do contact tracing to see where it came from. And it's usually from an outside vendor that provides food or other services to the jail, or on occasion, it will be a member of the staff that works in the jail. But now that the county has imposed mandatory testing for all of the personnel at the jail, we've reduced COVID outbreaks in the jail. We had a very successful call today. And again, I'm glad to report there are no severe breakouts at Santa Rita, and there never has been. We had a small surge in June of 2020, but we got past that. And I'm very pleased that Commander Sanchez, who runs the jail, has been doing a great job with her staff. Next slide. So we're going to go through some of the other initiatives. The young man there, that's Cecil. As the Assembly member talked about, raising leaders is one of our initiatives. Cecil works here at Tri-City Recycling. He's a young man that was part of the Hayward Adult School. Davida Scott is the founder of Raising Leaders. She came to District 2 a few years ago and said, I have an idea about doing something for youth who are most at risk, who are having trouble in school. And she created this program, and we've been sponsoring this program. We had a recent check presentation. I don't know if you have it on here, Maria. The photo that shows the chief. The chief of probation, Wendy Still, has also invested into Raising Leaders. Is it on the next slide? And this is a check presentation that we did in front of the plaza this week. Those checks are over $1 million worth of funding that my office and probation have invested in Raising Leaders. These are the teachers. Davida is right there in the center in white. She's a very energetic person and somebody that has done a great deal to promote youth and jobs. And she's created internships with every department in the county of Alameda. My office in District 2 is hiring one of those interns, and she will start on Monday of next week, Ms. Gomez, who is currently attending Cal State Hayward, but came from Hayward Adult School and will be graduating from Cal State Hayward soon with a degree, something that was a dream for her, and she worked very hard. So this is an example of the morale and leadership of Davida and what she brings to her youth and her cohorts. And her cohorts, I think, are 8 weeks, and there is many as 60 to 80 students, all tied to the Hayward Adult School. And now we've expanded the program county-wide, so we're working with other school districts throughout the county, and other investments are being made in this program. Next slide. Niles Canyon, as you all know, is about a 6.5 mile stretch from Niles or Fremont out to Sunol, part of our district. And we have, for several years, wanted a Class 1 trail through Niles Canyon. These are all the partners that have been working on this project for at least 5 years. This was an idea that was born in conversation that I had with a constituent in Newark. Her husband died on a bicycle trip through Niles Canyon. And she asked if we could do something about the safety of people going through the canyon on bicycles. So our office met with Caltrans and other partners about creating a trail through Niles Canyon that would be safe and away from trucks and traffic. So we came up with the idea of building a Class 1 trail on the other side of Alameda Creek, away from the traffic. And as a result of that, we've made a tremendous investment. ACTC, Alameda County Transportation Commission, has also helped with that investment. And so have these partners here. The city of Fremont actually put up $1 million to help us with the environmental studies about the trail. Next slide. It's going to be a trail that looks like this. On your left, this is the hidden trail, as they call it, that goes through Niles Canyon. And way back when, it was used for pumping water through the canyon, drinking water from one end of the county to the other. It's now been abandoned, but inside that trail that you see on to the left, which is a concrete pad, there's a tunnel where water was pumped through it. We're going to build a trail above that tunnel so that this rendered improvement on the right-hand side would be an example of how that trail would meander throughout the canyon. Next slide. So we created an opportunity for the people of Alameda County to go through Niles Canyon and remove traffic for one day. And we've done this several times, almost every year, except when COVID happened, to educate people about the potential of creating the trail. And we created the event called Stroll and Roll. And Chris Miley deserves a great deal of credit. He's our chief of staff. He has basically brought together all of the partners over the years and opened up the canyon one day a year so that people can bicycle or walk or jog or run, whatever they want, all through the canyon. And this is in collaboration with District 1. Former Supervisor Scott Haggerty represents the other side of Sunol. And along with the city of Fremont, our three offices have been working with East Bay Regional Park District, the Pacific Locomotive Association, and several other partners to make this dream come true. This would be a link between the Bay Trail and the Valley Trail, one of the few in Alameda County that will connect all of those trails. Next slide. We had planned a mental health series over a couple of days at Washington Hospital, which is an area that serves Union City and Newark and Fremont. And we were prepared to do a 2-day summit and had everything in place. And then along came COVID. We had Facebook on board. We're going to do these sessions about mental health services here in South County, something that's desperately needed in our schools and in our community-based organizations and within our police departments. We will continue this series at a future date, and we will keep you posted on these series. But this is a huge initiative that District 2 is keenly involved in and concerned about due to the mental health crisis that we're seeing as a result of COVID and people in general, many of whom start suffering in the early teen years as they're going through high school in their sophomore or junior year. And that's when families begin to see symptoms of mental health illness in their children. Next slide. So during COVID, we had to come up with a creative way of sort of engaging with youth. And so what we created was a slam in the shutdown. These are poetry slams that we've been sponsoring since mid of 2020. These programs are available to youth, kids that are in school. We've advertised in our school districts, and we've awarded over $40,000 in grants to kids who win the slams. Everybody's a winner. If you enter, you win at least a minimum of $100. And then our champions went up to $1,000. These are gift certificates. These are gift cards to local stores and local businesses. And the families are invited to watch their kids, but these poetry slams are closed to the general public because many of the children are under the age of 18, and they need parent permission to be involved in the poetry slam. Our Alameda County librarian, Cindy Chadwick, and her staff have been judges in the poetry slams, and they continue to this day. We also have extended the poetry slams to community-based organizations. There's about 34 of them. And so we've had poetry slams with executive directors from all of the CBOs that include Tiburcio Vasquez, Spectrum Community Services, La Familia. So you would be surprised how many of these programs have very talented people that express themselves through poetry. And these have been a smashing success and a good way of giving back to your community. And it's helped us keep our census together because a lot of the CBOs and their staff are working really long hours. And this is a real refresher when we hear each other's poetry and a lot of fun as well. Next slide. So at the jail, one of the initiatives that we've been working on for a long time is improving the services for healthcare and mental health care. Alameda County is concerned about the people who are housed at the jail. There's over 2,000 people at any given time at the jail, many of them who have not faced adjudication yet, but simply just are there because they can't afford bail. So I have been working at Santa Rita Jail since 1977. That was the first year that I was allowed into the jail. I ran a program in Union City called the Union City Pre- and Post-Release Project. I was the first individual that was allowed to visit the jail as an outsider, as a community-based organization. That came about as a result of the assassination of our chief of police in Union City, William Cann. So I had to meet with the sheriff and the city manager of Union City to get access to the jail. I'm very proud to say that Union City Pre- and Post-Release Project in 1977 was the first community-based organization that was allowed to access to the jail back when it was made out of wood. And so I went to Little Greystone and Big Greystone back in those years, and I've never stopped going back, trying to do my very best to improve the conditions for the people that are housed in the jail. Next slide. Dig Deep Farms is another initiative that we've been supporting for a long time, since its inception. These are young people, again, that are kind of out of the norm in terms of education, but have a real aspiration and willingness to get back into education and back into the mainstream when it comes to learning. So Captain Nidifer, through his leadership through the Sheriff's Department, this is a 501c3 that basically plants and cultivates vegetables and fruits. These young people are learning marketing, they're learning about farming, and I'm very glad to say, next slide, Maria, that we've been working with them to create a circular food economy in Alameda County by expanding their footprint. We negotiated with the Masonic Homes of Union City to farm on 10 acres of their land. We're now in the process of building a well on their property, and it's going to be solar powered, which will provide the water for the 10 acres. And we advocated very strongly with East Bay Regional Park District to get Dig Deep Farms at the Ardenwood Farms here in Fremont. And I'm glad to say that just last week, we were informed that Dig Deep Farms is now in negotiations with East Bay Regional Park District to farm 60 acres of prime land at Ardenwood. All of this will result in fresh food and vegetables for the local community. And we're going to ask people, I know that Supervisor Halpert has a special friend that does this, to disperse food and spread food to those most in need at a minimal cost. Next slide. We've been working on this initiative, Unaccompanied Immigrant Youth and Families, with Centro Legal for quite a long time. I had a conversation with Centro Legal today. You all know what's happening at the borders of the United States and Mexico. In Hayward alone, there are 1,000 youth who are currently in removal proceedings through immigration court who do not have legal counsel. My office has been working with Centro Legal to provide those youth with legal counsel through the funding that we've been providing. We've been using a fund called Enhancing Vision, which is a special fund that Supervisors created that I hope we will continue to help these youth with their defense to stay in this country because they want to be reunited with their families. Centro Legal is working with those youth in Hayward, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's several more in Oakland and other parts of the Bay Area that are currently in proceedings in court and to be removed from this country. And there are underage kids that don't have representation. Next slide. We've been, since I took office in 2012, one of the visions that we had was to build something at the Eden Youth and Family Center, which is on the corner of Roos Road and Tennyson Road. We've raised a little over $14 million to build the stack. This is going to cost about $30 million. So clearly there's a funding gap. But with the city of Hayward and our other partners, which are listed here, we are hoping, and this is a shovel-ready project. We've turned this over to the city of Hayward. We're hoping that through the funds from Washington, D.C., under the Biden administration, that this will be one of the projects that they will help us to fund. These are renderings done by our architect, Mallory Quisenberry, who also helped to design the center in the unincorporated area of Alameda County. This is a renovation and creation that was based on conversation with youth and people in the community. It was not done in a silo. We reached out to kids and families in South County, in our district, to create this vision. Go ahead, Maria. And that's about it, Bill. That's currently the initiatives that we have. And I'll flip it back to you.
Thank you, Richard. Do you have any more time or do you have to get going?
I have a 3 o'clock, so I'm anxious to hear from my colleague, and then I'll probably have to dash out.
Well, I mean, when do you have to leave?
Oh, 2:45.
All right, well, then we've got a few minutes. What I'm going to do is do an introduction for Supervisor Halpert, and then go over some questions that I think that we have from community members, and then give Supervisor Haubert his chance to make his presentation and answer questions. So let me introduce the supervisor right now. So Supervisor David Halpert was elected in the last election cycle on November 3rd, 2020. Previously served as mayor of Dublin for 6 years. And before that on the Dublin Unified School District Board of Trustees for 10 years. 16 years of public service. That's the same amount of time as Vice President Harris. Long time. It's been a pleasure to get to know Supervisor Halpert in the last year and a half or so. I look forward to hearing from him. First, we're going to get a couple of questions that are related to Supervisor Valle's presentation. And the first of these are there plans for a long-term investment in the county behavioral health infrastructure? For Supervisor Valle.
Yeah, yes, there are. We have invested millions of dollars. We have a behavioral health department. Dr. Tribble is the head of that department. Through her leadership and the leadership of our Fire Chief McDonald, who is a new hire in Alameda County, we've created the Community Assessment Transport Team, also known as CAT. This team has been in place for a little bit about a year. And the teams are working with Falk Ambulance Service so that if there's a 911 call in any jurisdiction in Alameda County, the CAT team will respond if there's a mental health crisis, and it's deemed not to be violent. The CAT team will come out and try to talk to the individual, and they will arrive in a SUV that's unmarked. They don't carry any weapons. They have a shirt that identifies them as a CAT member. And these are clinicians, 2 of them that will be on the spot when called by police departments. And so we're hoping that we can expand that CAT team so that every city in the county has sufficient resources so that they can disperse those CAT teams to a 911 call instead of a uniformed armed police officer to those calls.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's one investment that we've made. And I know that people are concerned about the investment that the county made with regard to building a mental health facility at the county jail. I want to be really clear. The county would rather not have people who have mental health crisis in jail. That is not what our mission is about. It's the courts that put people in jail with mental health issues, not the supervisors, and not anybody else but the courts and the judges. So until we come up with a better system, the reality is people with mental health crisis are either sent to John George in Oakland, or they're sent to Santa Rita. Or if we're lucky, the CAT team can divert them out of the system and into community housing for programs that are based in the community. Nonetheless, the reality is the 2,200 people housed at the jail at any given time, at least a third of them are suffering from mental health illness, and we need to take care of those people while they're in that facility. And for some of them, they'll be there for quite a while, depending on the crime that was committed or the alleged crime. So I've been working really hard with the sheriff's department and our supervisors and the department that builds all these, and it escapes me now, but Willie Hopkins is the head of that department, to build a facility that's sufficient for clinicians and psychologists and psychiatrists to go into the jail and work with people. We do that now, but we don't have a facility where people can have the privacy that they need and feel safe. We need to build something substantial. We are currently under litigation and threat by the court system, the federal court system, and advocates that want to see something better than what we currently have. So this is the response that we're negotiating with the advocates on the other side of the table to make it easier for people in that facility to receive mental health services.
Well, thank you very much. That sounds like we could well have a model program here. And I really appreciate the work that you and the other supervisors and the staff are doing. We can let you go now, and I'll ask David Halpert to start his presentation, and we'll have to leave the rest of the questions for him.
Assemblymember, thank you very much, and I really appreciate that introduction. Before I move on, I'm just going to say I really want to commend Supervisor Valle for doing an outstanding job. I'll also echo his comments about the mental services facility that we're going to be placing at Santa Rita. It's the General Services Agency, GSA, that will be building that facility for us, and we are committed as a team to making that happen. And to start, let me say, Assemblymember Quirk, you hit the nail on the head mentioning that for most of this past year, I've been the mayor of Dublin. Prior to becoming the supervisor, I'm not even in 100 days yet, but I'm getting close to my first 100 days and looking forward to recapping what I've been able to do so far as a supervisor. But to summarize, a lot of what I've been up to, as you might imagine, is a bit of startup. And so part of that is getting my staff together. And I know that you know how important having great staff is to being a great community servant. And so I'm pleased to say that my chief of staff is Sean Wilson, continuing on from my predecessor, Supervisor Scott Haggerty. For many years, Sean has done a great job as chief of staff, and I'm proud to have him serve as my chief of staff. Also retained on our team, Melissa Hernandez, also carryover from Supervisor Haggerty's team onto my team. But I'm also happy to announce two new members of the team who have just come on board. One is Kathy Kimberlin, a long-time community leader in the city of Fremont, knows everyone, is connected in a very positive way to so many organizations and groups of people in Fremont, and able to be the eyes and ears out on the ground in Fremont. And also Sae Amari coming onto my team as social media and journalism and communications expert, recent graduate from UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, and a Pleasanton, a longtime Pleasanton resident. Really happy to have the team growing. Another part of what I've had to do is, and enjoy doing, forming relationships with all of my colleagues. And that is each of the supervisors that I serve with. And I'm just so proud of each of them. They're doing an outstanding job. And for me, I just feel blessed and honored to serve with them. What I've done is scheduled district tours where I get to go see their district with them and their staff. And some of the same things that Supervisor Valle talked about just now are places that he's taken me to go see in his district. And then we'll give a tour of my district, District 1, to each of those supervisors. And so they get to see a part of Alameda County maybe that they haven't seen for quite a while. It's been extremely interesting so far. I've been on tour for each of the districts. District 4 with Supervisor Miley, District 5 with Supervisor Carson, District 3 with Supervisor Chan's team, District 2 with Supervisor Valle, and I have had a chance to show them my district. I still have to get Supervisor Valle out to District 1, and I promise, Richard, I will do that. But it's a great way to build relationships and see the county. We have, we know, one of the largest counties in the country, top 20. We have the 4th most diverse district ethnically and demographically in the country. And I'm just proud to say we have a very diverse county from a geographic standpoint, everything from the bay all the way out to green pastures with windmills on them. As you know, Assemblymember driving through the Altamont Pass, perhaps as you might on the way to Sacramento. We've got a very diverse county in many ways. And so taking the initiative to see my colleagues and meet with them one-on-one, as well as serving with them in numerous meetings, it's been a great way to establish relationships, but also establishing relationships with each of the department heads, which I've been able to do and schedule ongoing meetings with. And so understanding them personally and forming a relationship with them, but also what they do and how their teams do what they do. I am so proud and pleased to say that we hire some of the very best and brightest people in Alameda County. They're doing a great job, working extremely hard and keeping the county running. When you go into the county office, you will see that it is just bristling with activity and people that are getting the job done, some remotely, but many still going into work and getting the job done. So forming relationships also with our community and being out and meeting with each of the chambers of commerce, with many of the service organizations like the Rotary clubs, by meeting with the mayors that serve in each of those districts on a regular basis with their city managers, and by understanding the areas that are so important to them that cross over into county business. Also, in my first 100 days, I'm pleased to say that I've jumped on board to several very important regional committees and task forces, not the least of which is the Alameda County Transportation Commission, which I was part of as mayor, but continue to be part of as a supervisor now. Not the least of which is the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, a wonderful Bay Area-wide large organization that has cleaned up the air in the Bay Area over the last 50 years. The Stop Waste organization, responsible for recycling and responsible for educating and policy advocacy for ways to help make the quality of life cleaner and better for everyone in Alameda County. I serve on the Oakland Coliseum Joint Powers Authority and working through the transition of the county selling its interest and managing the assets that are owned there in Oakland until we're fully paid. Also, the Livermore Amador Valley Transportation Authority and the Local Area Formation Commission, dealing with boundaries of open space and jurisdictional boundaries, municipal districts and cities. LAFCO, a very important committee. We are knee deep, waist deep, neck deep into some pretty big issues with regard to District 1 and with regard to Alameda County. I'm happy to say, and you mentioned that we've done a great job managing COVID, managing infection rates where we can stomp those down. We had a flare up in the holiday season, as we all know, but we've got that back under control by spreading the word for doing what we need to do, wearing the mask, socially distanced, washing hands, staying sheltered in place when possible, whenever possible. But proud to say that we have passed out PPE to our school districts and cities, that we have helped to monitor the business community, where we've got the infection rates under control. But then it turns to vaccinations. And as we've throughout the county have a couple of megapods. One is very close to us here in the Pleasanton Fairgrounds that serves the Tri-Valley, and another at the Oakland Coliseum, all about getting the vaccinations in the arms of everybody. As you know, we went through a tiering system. I got my first shot last week. I went out to a vaccination site in Livermore. I've viewed the testing and vaccination sites in Fremont through the Bay Area Community Health Organization. We are speaking almost on a daily basis for getting vaccinations into the hands of the people in the community and into the arms of the people that need it. And we're not just doing it at the mega sites, we're doing it neighborhood by neighborhood where we can, and mobile vaccination units, and going out to neighborhoods where maybe the community isn't as comfortable coming out to a mega site. And so we're making sure that we get to everybody that we can with regard to getting vaccinations. We continue to remain vigilant about the homeless crisis and pandemic that we had even before COVID. But Bill, I'm happy to say that in the city of Livermore, a legacy project from my predecessor, Supervisor Haggerty, who started it, we're going to finish it here in another month or so, the Tiny Home Project, which is going to take place on the grounds of Crosswinds Church, and in partnership with Crosswinds, in partnership with home builders, affordable home building that have put the tiny homes together, and in partnership with Alameda County to install a community of 28 homes with community-wide kitchen and other facilities, and the homes that will be housing people that were formerly homeless. In addition to that, Project Room Key, something that the state of California started, we helped implement, and we're looking to now purchase some of the hotels and continue the good work of getting people off the street, putting them in a place that's safe and secure, that's a roof over their head and 4 walls and 3 meals to keep them healthy, but really to assess them, understand them, know them, figure out the root cause of why they're homeless and what they specifically and uniquely need to get back on their feet. And then I'm happy to say that we've been able to take about half of those people and cycle them into permanent, sustainable housing. The other half have either moved, some have gone back out on the streets, sad to say. Some have been returned back into the prison system, back into, into jail, where they have been remanded by a judge. As Supervisor Valle mentioned, it's not our police that put people in jail or our supervisors, it's the judges. And so we're trying to keep them out, but some have gone back into incarceration. And as Supervisor did a great job of mentioning, we're doing all we can to work with the incarcerated population. That's another aspect of COVID that I'm proud to say, that we made sure the incarcerated population and the people that watch over them have all been tested and vaccinated, the ones that need it. We are prioritizing them for vaccination. I'm also happy to say that personally here in District 1, a couple of other things that I've been able to carry on as legacy projects from the Supervisor Haggerty. $50,000 that we donated to Abode Family Services. They do great work all over the county, but they're down in Fremont, and also scholarships for youth that we've been able to offer the Dublin Partners in Education, $50,000 in scholarships there. So continuing on the great work that my predecessor started, and also starting new projects and programs that my staff, my new staff, and I, with the newly built relationships that we're making in our first 100 days, set to leverage over the balance of the year as I work alongside and learn from my colleagues. I'm not bashful, Bill. I'll steal a good idea if I see one, and I'll also share what I can with what we develop. But I'm really, really happy to be in the position I'm in. I'm honored to be on the call with you here today, and I feel good about the work that we're doing and look forward to doing even more.
Well, that's great. And let me make sure I am off mute. That's just great. And again, we talked earlier today, and I'm excited that you're on the Board of Supervisors, and looking forward to working with you. Did you get the questions ahead of time?
Bill, I sure did. About 5 minutes before the tape started.
Okay.
No, it's okay. We're all good.
All right. If you can pick out a couple of those, read the question, and then answer it to the extent that someone only been on board a couple of months can.
I'll tell you what, one of the great questions was addressing climate crisis at the county level. I got a couple of really good ones. Bill, we're creating alternative energy out in Livermore, an open space where we've added solar facilities, Aramis Farms, a great combination of working farm with some animals that are out there alongside the solar panels. They're going to be producing eggs and fresh local honey and raising goats, but also megawatts of clean energy. Also on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, we are going to, I would say, yeah, you could say we're going to make the oil refineries clean up the air before it is emitted from their factories. So rather than deal with pollution when it's out in the community, we're going to work with them to reduce pollutants before they go out in the community. So I'm happy with the work that we're doing with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. We also talked about policing and mental health. Supervisor Valle did a great job with the CAT team, Community Assessment and Transport. Down in Fremont, we also have the MET team, the mobile evaluation team that the county is partnering with. So we're evaluating alternate ways to engage with people of having an experience in a mental crisis, ways to keep them out of the jail system, the court system, if at all possible, by experts who are well trained in mental health, as opposed to officers whose job is not necessarily mental health. So I'm really happy about that one. Let's see, another one talks about cuts. What are we going to do about managing impending cuts? I have to tell you that it is inevitable, Bill. We're going to have a shortfall in budget. We know that we're at least blessed. It wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. Revenues aren't as depressed as we thought they might be, but we are going to fall short. We're using the CARES Act funding and the American Recovery Act funding to the very best of our abilities. And we're going to be going through a budget cycle. It starts next week, which will be very participatory. So we're asking for input from the community. It's going to be very transparent, where we have all of our decisions discussed in open session on Zoom for all to see how we manage our budget. So the best way I can say we do that is to do the best we can with the money we have. That's what I've always done as a member of the school board when we had school budgets cut time and time again for lack of funding. And we're going to do that again as a county. We are AAA rated, one of the few, maybe the only in the state, that has a AAA rating. We run, I should say, I'm on the team now, but they have run a tight ship for quite some time. We're going to continue to do that, but it takes great detail, looking at the budget. What can we reduce spending on that isn't going to keep away? It's going to keep away from the people that need it the most, and then spend the money that we have in the best way that we can. But we're going to be really utilizing that federal and state dollars that come down as a relief to COVID. But we will have to make some tough choices, without a doubt. Those are some of the questions that came out, Bill, and I really want to tell you. I just would like to say one other, which is we know that people have been food insecure even before COVID, but now with COVID even more so. And Supervisor Valle mentioned it. We have empowered our food banks and worked with the federal USDA Farmers to Families program, for example, out of Daylight Foods there in Union City, preparing and handing out food boxes. But it's really hard when you have people that are so vulnerable that they can't even get to the food lines, driving their car. Maybe they don't have a car, trying to get to where those boxes of foods are. So I've partnered with One Nation Dream Makers and a fabulous gentleman named Ronnie Forbes, who has a heart for giving back to the community. He himself was once homeless. He himself was once incarcerated. Now he goes and delivers food to some of the same places that he stood in line to get fed when he was down on his luck. He is the last mile, what I call the last mile delivery agent of food from where we have it to where it needs to be. Sometimes at a park, in fact, at Charles Kennedy Park in Union City, just at the side of the park with a local organization there called the Community Workers Kitchen. He's delivering food boxes right there in the park, or at a place where people live, at a community. Eden housing communities come to my mind. Many in Dublin, many in Hayward, many in Union City, some in Fremont. He is just doing an outstanding job. And so Ronnie Forbes, One Nation Dream Makers, the last mile food delivery is something I'm very proud to support so far, and will continue to support. We need to do a better job of getting the food that we have into the hands of people that need it the most. And sometimes you don't even have a car to go pick up the food boxes. So anyway, that's some of the questions, Bill, that came out. A great set of questions. Thank you for coordinating that from the community. And I'd like to thank the community members who put those questions forward to us. Really thoughtful questions.
Have you had a chance yet to take a look at how the Measure A1 funds are being spent on affordable housing?
Well, that's where we're going to transition, Bill, to the Project Room Key, and continuing to use dollars that we receive from the state and the federal government to purchase the hotels that we have already utilized so far. We're going to actually buy those with the federal dollars that we have.
Excellent, because a number of them do need rehabilitation.
Yeah, oh yes, we do know that. And in addition, we're looking to rehabilitate some other buildings and to purchase some other buildings. The one facility the county had previously rented where Supervisor Steele had her office. It's over there in Hayward. We're going to look to buy that and rehabilitate it.
Oh, fantastic. All right, let me see if there's another question here. Oh, workforce reentry. So a lot of jobs are probably going to be disappearing. And, will our restaurants and other facilities that had to be closed down, we don't know how those people are going to be able to find jobs. Are you familiar yet with what plans the county might have for re-education and introducing people to new opportunities?
Bill, it's an outstanding question. I don't know what the county has, but I will tell you from a former life and having worked in the tech space, and also having kept my ear to the ground, it's no secret that even before COVID, robotics, artificial intelligence, and other ways of getting the job done more efficiently are going to put people out of work. There are already fast food establishments that only need 1 or 2 people on site, and robots do the rest. And so what I can tell you is that in the general macro space around the world, there are people that are calling this out and calling on government to create new jobs for people and retraining people. I can tell you that even in the tech space, there are people and assessments that can be done, people that never, ever would have thought of coding. They didn't grow up with a computer. They weren't provided the education that is required to code, but they have the raw DNA skills, so to speak, to be a good coder. We need to find those people that are currently in other jobs, identify them and train them to be good coders, because that could be the future for them. They would never know that. So it's going to be all about assessment, and it's going to be about retraining. I don't know enough about the county's specific plans, but I know, Bill, as a world, we're going to have to meet this head on.
Yeah. Well, so thank you so much, David, for being here the whole time. Our thanks, of course, to Richard as well, who's off to another meeting, not unusual in these days. I think he said he was going out to the jail, by the way. You know, again, the county supervisors, their job is to help people that really need help, that no one else is helping. And the jail, which is something that, and the people who come into that jail is something Richard's worked with for a long time. And again, I think our county is on the right trail. From the programs that he and you have described, I think we'll continue to lead the country and the world in the way that we look at these programs. And, you know, I've often heard that since the closure of the mental hospitals during the Reagan administration, that the largest mental treatment facilities now are the jails. And so I'm so happy to hear about what the county is doing there and trying to come up with a facility that's not a jail to take care of those folks. So thanks, everyone. Thank those of you who have been listening to this webinar. And I think we'll call it a day. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me again, Assemblymember. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. It's proud to serve along with you.
I'm proud to serve